Hello and welcome to Gokai's Annotated Thoughts, where I give a quick personal review of a show we've just finished annotating over on Annoverse. Today we're looking at Yo Yogi, a show that is considered the pinnacle of how do you do, fellow kids? When it comes to most bad TV shows, especially cartoons with a no-cell concept, one typically doesn't make it past the opening. That's all you really need to get a general idea of what a show's going to be about. With something like Yo Yogi, the opening alone would turn anyone away. And can you blame them? Yo Yogi is that kind of show you see parodied by other shows that mock how aggressively dated a show can be, but played completely straight. For those unaware of this show, God I envy you, Yo Yogi was a short-lived Hanna-Barbera cartoon that brought Yogi Bear and his friends into the neon 90s. The show saw Yogi, Boo Boo, Cindy, Snagglepuss, and Huckleberry Hound as trendy teenagers who work in Jellystone Mall as lost and found / detectives / crime fighters known as the Laugh Squad. Laugh is an acronym for Lost and Found. The group is always under the watchful eye of Officer Smith, a mall cop, while Dickie Dastardly and Muttley cause trouble for anyone and everyone in the mall. If you cringed at any sentence from that synopsis, then good, that means you're human. When it comes to episodes, the only one people really know about is the one where Magilla Gorilla plays a hit musician called... Magilla Ice. And while that episode is indeed a thing that exists, it's one of the more unique episodes because it seems like this show really loved throwing in pairs of bumbling burglars for Yogi and pals to deal with. No joke, of the 19 individual episodes this show has, 5 of them feature this exact character setup. Okay, one of them was a parrot in one episode, but my point still stands. Now that might not seem like much, but for a specific setup like that to be used 5 times, that just seems a tad too lazy. The show also has some issues with inconsistency. We are presented a world where Yogi and friends are teenagers, yet just about every other Hanna-Barbera character we see is still an adult. Doggy Daddy is the owner of Jellystone Mall, while Augie Doggy is still the same age. Under this logic, Augie Doggy shouldn't even exist. Lesser-known Hanna-Barbera characters like Hokey Wolf, Loopy-Dee-Loop, Squidly Diddly, and Peter Potamus also weren't aged down either. The only other characters to be aged down were Hardy Har Har and Secret Squirrel. And trust me, you will not like this version of Secret Squirrel.
Oh, I love top secret type missions! In fact, I love everything top secret. That's why my friends call me... Shh! Secret Squirrel!
Then you have some serious cases of Flanderization. It seems like Yogi can't go 5 seconds without either eating food, mentioning food, or straight up not functioning because he needs food. Yes, Yogi and Boo Boo were always trying to steal picnic baskets in their original shorts, but that wasn't their sole characteristic. They did other things besides steal food from park guests. They tried making money, they tried to skimp out on hibernating, heck, sometimes they would just try to get away with being a general nuisance to everyone. He doesn't even try to give the excuse that he's government property. Officer Smith, meanwhile, always seems to have it in for Yogi, even when he isn't really doing anything wrong. In the original shorts, he's just doing his job keeping the park and its guests safe, especially during one of Yogi's antics. On the rare occasion Yogi is behaving himself, the two can get along rather well. Here, Smith is practically waiting for Yogi to make one slip-up so he can fire him. I know it's a different setting and all, but this dislike of Yogi and, arguably, the rest of the Laugh Squad isn't doing him any favors. All of this culminates into the biggest issue I have with Yo Yogi, the fatal flaw that renders this entire show moot. Yo Yogi has no real audience. The adults who grew up with the original shorts would be appalled at Hanna-Barbera's attempt to make Yogi Bear appeal to the youth of the 90s. Meanwhile, the youth of the 90s this show was marketed towards more than likely wouldn't be interested in a contemporary interpretation of a cartoon series their parents grew up watching. So in essence, Yo Yogi tried to appeal to everyone, thus it appealed to no one. Now for all the harking I gave this show, there are some things I have to give compliment to. Some of the characters tend to make the transition to their new surroundings better than others. Of the main cast, Huck and Snag completely steal the show. They are the ones that act the most like their adult counterparts. Huck is still a walking, talking doormat that takes any injury with stride, and Snag, well, he's still Snag. Totally isn't the token gay best friend, no siree. Episodes that focus on them tend to be more interesting. Super Duper Snag sees Snag acquiring Adam Ant's helmet and, believing it to be a fashionable ring, gains Adam's superpowers and becomes a hero himself, while Mellowfellow sees Huck get roped into finding a lost gorilla. A gorilla that just so happens to be the same one he encountered in the first episode of his original show. It's also a somewhat refreshing change of pace to see Hanna-Barbera's lesser-known characters get the spotlight in this show. Even if they don't have much going for them, it's still cool to see Hanna-Barbera remembering them. Like, show of hands, who the hell remembers Lippy the Lion, or Mr. Jinx? So, while this show has a lot of things going against it, it's not a complete train wreck. Yo Yogi is essentially a time capsule that encapsulates all of the stank the early 90s gave us. Crew-cut hairdos, clothes that wouldn't look out of place on the Jetsons, those abstract shapes and patterns you see in Saved by the Bell's opening, all played straight without a complete hint of irony. And that's probably Yo Yogi's greatest strength. It's been nearly 30 years since this show was on the air. We're allowed to look back on the show and laugh at how dated it was, even back when it first came out. The fact that a show exists where Yogi Bear and his friends hang out at a mall and solve mysteries, and it's not done in a tongue-in-cheek manner, is downright absurd. Some would call it an ironic viewing, some would call it a guilty pleasure. I call it Hanna-Barbera's 90s hot mess. And if C.H. Greenblatt claims to be a fan, then I think we haven't heard the last of the Laugh Squad. Please be good. By the way, William Hanna said this version of Yogi was dressed like a whoremonger. Bye!
Gokai!